I chose this piece of wood because it had a big crotch piece running down the middle, and I really wanted to see what I might find inside. I also like turning sycamore because it's a softer wood, and I really love the color as I was working my way through this. I was hoping it would stay and be some pink colors like that. I also left some bark on there, which eventually started to shrink, and the color, of course, typically fades from green woods to when they dry. And it presented a pretty fun challenge to completely finish it in the end, but I really love the results. I have this piece sitting on my table, and I can hardly walk by without taking a glance over at the beautiful wood and the grain that showed up when I was finished with this piece. And this is how it looked right after I finished it, and it was still in the green stage, and I loved it. Next project. This was a sycamore hollow form I did a year ago, and it's kind of cool. Thought about leaving it alone, but I was gonna go back and finish the bottom anyway, take the mortise off of there. And it's kind of warped. I thought, go ahead and try to put it back on the machine with the old mortise in and smooth it out as best I can. There might be some thin spots. I'm afraid it might get, looks like it kind of humps up and down a little bit. So it might get too thin. We'll figure out what to do after that, but let's give this guy a shot. All right, that fits on there. Snug it down a little bit. Oops, I heard a crack. It's probably plenty far. Yeah, if you're listening right there, you probably heard me say, oops, I heard a crack. Well, keep that in mind because about halfway through this video, that little piece of information will explain what happened. I'm going to use my beveled cleanup tip here just to get started to see how I don't want to get too aggressive and tear it off. One of the main things I want to do is highlight that color again. That was the original color, and it darkened, of course, from the drying process. But I learned with that oak bowl, that oak Navajo bowl I recently did, the color underneath this dry is really, really nice. So I'll knock that off as best I can, try to highlight some of that color, harder tool, and it's not beveled. So I was really trying to take my time on this and not damage the piece. I was scraping and slicing my way through, trying to get the outside layer off and get to that new wood underneath. It was looking really nice, and I was getting encouraged to see that it was I was getting closer, and I was thinking, well, maybe I can get it all off without actually punching a hole all the way through. So I took my time and just kept after it, and it took a lot of time to get that material off. I tried not to bore you with most of that, so I gave you bits and pieces as we go through here, and tried to shorten up that video as much as possible. I thought I had it all the way around. I was so close. So close. Oh, popped out a little piece of wood. I felt that hit me earlier. Well, if you're still hanging in there, I really do appreciate it. It took a lot of time. And as I mentioned, I was trying to cut bits and pieces out of this. And it was extremely frustrating to be cutting along nicely, thinking, okay, I'm actually making some progress, looking good. I probably got it completely cut all the way around, only to turn off the machine and realize I still haven't completely made it all the way around. I've got some voids in there. can I keep taking the material off without finding a hole all the way through? Those knot sections are dry and there's bits and pieces that seem to be flying out of them. All right, well, we made it almost to the bottom, but we haven't got this section through here. Everything else has been hit a little bit, except for right there too. Ay, ay, ay. It just keeps on plaguing me. I think I got it. I finally got it. There's a little bit on the rim, and I'll take care of the bottom later. But what a deal. And that's what you're trying not to do, right there. Got my catch I was trying to avoid and broke the bottom right out. Son of a gun. I got it remounted, but I got a big gap. But I didn't go through, so I'm just gonna have to do some scraping until it's gone. What a deal. You missed the best part. After it bounced off the tool rest, it was heading for the back side of the lathe and for the ground. And I literally reached over with one hand and caught it out of the air and saved it from hitting the ground, which might have been the end of it. But fortunately, it was able to remount and put back on the lathe and continue the project to the finish. I shouldn't even do the inside. I want to clean up the lip area because that's where everybody puts their little fingers to check how good the inside is done. So I was trying something different here with this sanding. I was sanding through every grit and then I would flip it on in reverse and do another quick sand on it, trying to get that grain to lay down or get it to stand back up and then shear it off, because I was having some trouble with that. The fuzz kept standing up on it. I probably should have tried water pop, but I just was trying something different here. So I flipped this thing back around and I used the opening on the top side to mount in the chuck jaws. And I was really nervous. I thought, man, the last thing I want to do is tear it out of there and have a big crack on the top or literally rip it in half. So I spent a lot of time just doing some real fine scraping on there until I got the bottom scraped to the shape that I wanted it. And was happy with the fact that it probably took me 10 or 15 minutes worth of scraping just to get that without breaking it. To get it down to those cracks. All right. All right, we'll let that soak over. This is the final product of the sycamore bowl. I have about 4 coats of the antique oil on there. It left a really nice shine, and it really highlights the grain. Lots of really interesting grain. That's why I like to choose those crotch pieces of wood where you get a lot of twisted grain. And yeah, some of it's just gorgeous. There's a spot right here. It's where the crotch wood is actually highlighted. Got a lot of twisted grain in there. The lights are shining on it. Oh, you can see that. And it turned out really well. Going back and refinishing these projects that I started about a year ago has really helped me improve the finishing process, because it's something I really didn't like. I often just threw wax on there, which in a very short while soaked in and disappeared. Tried to spray lacquer. Lacquer is pretty nice. I've had mediocre success with lacquer, but these wipe-on finishes that you wipe on, first one usually soaks in pretty good. You wipe it back off. Second, third, and fourth, whatever it takes, same thing. Put a nice light coat all the way around, and then just go back and wipe it off. Let it dry. The only problem is it takes almost 24 hours to dry before you can touch it really well the next day. Sometimes it get tacky really fast, but you don't want to be messing with it. And of course it's winter time right now, and a little on the cooler side. But there it is. A fantastic piece, and I'm really happy with it. So when I turn something green, which I have one coming up, I just did green. It looks really, really cool right now. But I'm sure it's gonna crack and warp. It's fruit wood, so it's very common to crack with fruit wood. A lot of pieces out there are done in green. I see them finished and they're gorgeous pieces, but I don't know any piece that doesn't warp to some extent, if not crack completely. So I wasn't sure how to go about it. So what I've been doing is, if you've noticed, is taking those old pieces and old videos and shortening them up on the first piece, and then finishing up with the piece when it's completely done. So I hope you appreciate that. Let me know what you think. I really appreciate some feedback on some of this, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. So here's the latest one. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching.